Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are at the segment discussing the suspended warning strike by oil workers in Nigeria. And we're also taking a look at the oil industry in general. We have Balazaka joining us on phone, and we also expecting the national president of the Nupeng to join us. Now, we've been on our wall discussing this. Now, we've been highlighting some of the challenges in the oil sector, but let's go further. Now, another issue is debt owed oil marketers by successive governments, which makes it impossible for them to finance fuel importation. Recently, oil marketers under the aegis of the Independent Petroleum Products Importers have said they owe some Nigerian banks more than 305 billion naira used for the importation of petroleum products, with the accumulated interest of 160 billion naira. Now, going further, they say the interest accumulated because government could not pay them or pay the bank's interest on the loans as agreed, adding that the inability to pay or service the loans will stall the importation of fuel. Now, another issue worth mentioning is that of shady oil import deals. Now, this was one of the reasons the NNPC cancelled the controversial oil battering program, or otherwise called oil swap, and started buying and selling oil and petroleum products directly to cut out middlemen and curb graft. Now, some estimates cutting out the swap deals will save Nigeria around 230,000 barrels a day, about 3.4 million naira daily with the current oil prices. Those are some of the estimates. Now, Bala, let me come back to you on this. Now, we're talking about the impacts of oil refineries earlier on. Now, some people are very quick to bring in the example of telecoms. When it was deregulated from NITEL, a lot of Nigerians felt very insecure as to what is going to look like when private hands are in charge of the airwaves one way or the other. But we all know how successful telecom company or the telecom industry is in Nigeria. So what will be different in the oil industry?
First of all, let me make these points clear. There are 4 economy restructuring mechanisms. You have deregulation, you have liberalization, you have privatization, and you have commercialization. The telecom sector was not deregulated. It was liberalized. When you liberalize, you allow other partners to come in and compete with public entities. And if the public entities like NITEL will die a natural death, let them die. It was not deregulated. I will continue to repeat. It was liberalized. And that is why a particular service provider cannot just wake up and charge any amount. The maximum you can charge will also be controlled. You must have an operating window. That is what happens when you have a liberalized economy. But when you have a deregulated economy, you can go to anywhere and bring what you want, and government will not interfere. And if the public entities like NITEL will die a natural death, let them die. It was not deregulated. I will continue to repeat. It was liberalized. And that is why a particular service provider cannot just wake up and charge any amount. The maximum you can charge will also be controlled. You must have an operating window. That is what happens when you have a liberalized economy. But when you have a deregulated economy, you can go to anywhere and bring what you want, and government will not interfere. And that was why when the downstream sector was deregulated and we said no, people said no, there will be competition, prices will come down.
All right, Bala. Yeah, Bala, let me put you on hold a little. We'll go on a break and then for the news update, and then we come back on the deregulation, privatization, liberalization, and commercialization you're talking about. All right, stay with us on the program, and Kemi is up for the news update now. Kemi, is all yours now.
Thanks, Mike. In Madagali local government area of Adamawa State, now residents there have been thrown into mourning again after a fresh attack. The insurgents abducted 4 schoolgirls and killed 2 others in an attack on Wednesday on a village in Madagali. Chairman of the local government, Mohammed Yusuf, decried the steady attacks on some communities in the area close to neighboring Borno State. Madagali has been exposed to increased danger and has also become an easy target since the dislodgement of Boko Haram terrorists from Sambisa Forest. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army says 16 soldiers have been found dead in a major river in the northeast of the country. The 16 personnel were part of the 46 soldiers officially declared missing more than 6 weeks ago. The theater commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Lucky Rabo, says the corpses were found in River Yobe and they have been buried at the May Malari Cantonment Cemetery with full military honors. Nigeria's defense authorities say they are only waiting for funds to establish military formations in southern Kaduna. The nation's defense chief made this disclosure while on a tour of crisis-ravaged communities in the area. They were received by troops on the ground and given situation report before proceeding to engage traditional rulers on the need for tolerance. The army top brass thereafter assured the locals that the government is concerned about the situation. Governor Nasir El-Rufai has promised 100 million naira for the rebuilding of fallen walls in southern Kaduna. In other news, at this time, the Code of Conduct Tribunal has fixed January the 17th for continued hearing of the trial involving the Senate President Bukola Saraki. The tribunal arrived at this decision after hours of cross-examination of the prosecuting counsel's first witness, Michael Wetkas. Chairman of the tribunal, Danladi Umar, charged the prosecuting counsel to ensure all witnesses are around on the next date. Saraki has been on trial since his assumption of office as Senate President on allegations of false asset declaration while he was governor of Kwara State. And the federal government has rearranged suspended High Court Judge Adeni Ademola and his wife on amended charges of corruption. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Joe Odeagi, was also arraigned along with a couple at the High Court in Abuja, and he is accused of bribing Justice Ademola with the sum of 38 million naira through his wife Olabowale and son Ademide. The trial judge, Jude Okeke, ruled that the Ademolas will continue to enjoy bail conditions already granted them, but for Agi, he was granted bail on self-recognition with a sum of 50 million naira, and he is expected to deposit his international passport and other travel documents to the registry of the court within 7 days. Trial will commence next Monday. That's news update. Now let's continue the discussions on the Nigeria oil industry now with Mike and Busolami.
Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you, Kemi. Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're discussing the oil industry and all the issues emanating from there in recent times and all of that. We have Balazaka with us on phone, and we have been discussing this. Now, Nigerians, you know, Busalami, when it comes to the workings in the oil industry, it is one industry Nigerians don't seem to be in the inside, knowing what goes on in there.
All we are interested in is the money that comes out from that sector for the spouses and the children. You want to look well fed and attend good schools. But a lot of interplay really comes on board when it comes to the oil industry. A lot of intrigues, a lot of politics, really, a lot of technicalities. So, and we're so glad.
And a lot of fraud. From what we hear, of course.
According to you.
We hear a lot of people get involved with fraudulent activities in the oil industry. We know that. We've always gotten those reports as well. Now, Balala, before we went on the break, you were giving us a breakdown of the commercialization, liberalization, deregulation, and the privatization. Can you finish that point before we go ahead?
Thank you. You see, when you look at NEPA in Nigeria, what has happened to NEPA is the typical case of what? Of privatization. And now that NEPA has been privatized, can't you see what is happening? Some of these people who are private investors, you can see what they are causing to Nigerians. You can see how they feel to deliberately patronize or provide prepaid meters to a point now where they are begging government to come in and support them. Then let me also make something clear you know. When you go to other countries, whether it's UK, US, Singapore, anywhere, you see these other oil companies operating. Some of those international oil companies are the same companies that are operating in Nigeria. The only difference is the way the government of those other countries are handling issues. So, but in the case of Nigeria, everybody will be saying, let the government chip off and allow these private investors to thrive. And I keep saying, no. When you go to Saudi Aramco, you hear of Saudi Aramco. It's different from the way Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is being run. If you Google the number of Nigerians that are there, you will be shocked to discover that some of them were even your colleagues that you know. They are the same Nigerians. You go to Qatar, you hear of Qatar gas. It is thriving because of the government. But in the case of Nigeria, initially, people who are economic marauders will be saying, no, let the government remove its hand. Immediately, the government tries to privatize that place, so that sector, or deregulate it for them. They are the same people that will be talking about Forex. Most of the people who want to come to Nigeria are just speculative investors. They are not interested in what we call institutional investment. At the slightest provocation, they will get out and leave Nigeria in penury. What every country does is to initially protect economy. When it protects, then after it will liberalize it, allow other players to come in. Then when you liberalize and the standard improves, you get to a point where you can deregulate that sector. And I tell you, you do that when you are improving in economy. But when you are in economy, you don't do that. So have it at the back of your mind. All these oil companies are the same. All these oil and gas experts and workers are the same all over.
All right, Bala.
A manner the government of respective countries manages them that makes the difference.
Okay.
PID has not been passed into law till now. Who do you blame? You blame the private companies or investors or the government. The government is the one to make it right. But some Nigerians are insisting that they don't want the government. And they are the same.
Yeah, but Bala, we'll come back to you shortly on this. Now we have joining us the national president of Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, Igwe Achese, joining us right now. Igwe, good morning. It's good to have you on. Can you confirm that you can hear us now?
I'm not sure.
All right, it seems we still have the audio issue there has to be fixed before we have it, but we have the national president of NUPENG with us in our Abuja studio. Now, Bala, let me come to you on this. You've really hammered on the issue of the need to protect the economy, especially in where we find ourselves being an importer country or mono economy like Nigeria. Now, what is the place of diversification? Is this the time now for government to intensify the effort of diversification so that we don't put the whole of our weight on one product?
Again, there is another mistake that we have also been doing, and I'm happy I have this opportunity to correct it.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying, we don't need the oil. The oil can go to hell. I can tell you those people also, they need to be guided. This crude oil we are talking about is an international commodity of repute, even though we are talking about renewable energy. But I can tell you in the next 100 years, probably the next 200 years, especially for those of us alive today, till we die, crude oil will continue to be a major economy and a major source of income to any country that is endowed with it. The reason why I'm telling you this is, first of all, this is an international commodity, just like gold or diamond. And there is so much to generate it. It is what you use with the revenue to do that makes the difference between country A, B, and C. One thing again we understand about this crude oil is this.
Yes.
Even in Nigeria, even the non-oil imports or exports you hear people talking about before now. Recently you heard that the revenue of custom has gone down and custom is trying to...
All right.
And it's not because of that. What is happening is because imports of heavy-duty equipment, oil and gas equipment have actually diminished because of...
Okay. We'll leave it there. Many thanks for your time this morning, Bala Zaka. It's been very interesting having you on this morning on TVC Breakfast. But we still have with us in our Abuja studio, Achese, Igwe Achese, who is the National President of NUPENG. Many thanks for joining us. I hope you can hear us now loud and clear.
But let's go on a break, and then maybe we'll come back on that. Stay with us. Let's go on a break. We'll come back to have the National President of NUPENG from our Abuja studio. All right. Hello, Igwe Achese. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Aha, great. Because we've come to you twice and we couldn't hear your voice, but I think we're on the break now, just in about a minute, and then we come to you.
Glad to have you back. It is still TVC Breakfast, and we are looking at the suspended strike, a warning strike called by NUPENG, and the man in the center of it all is with us now in our Abuja studio, Igwe Achese, who is the president. Walk us through why the suspension, Mr. Achese.
Yeah, it's a great one. We suspended the action because this is the first time we're seeing this kind of serious commitment from government. As you're aware, the meeting was chaired by the Minister of Labour. In attendance was the Deputy Inspector General of Operations of the Police, the Director Economic Intelligence representing the DGSSS. There was this high-powered delegations that attended that meeting. We had a very robust meeting, taking issues one after the other, item by item, and then setting a time frame for these issues to be addressed within a space of 2 months. That all issues pertaining issues of SACs, of workers, pertaining issues of non-payments of terminal benefits of workers, issues of contractual agreements between NNPC, NAPIMS, and the IOCs. These are the issues. And then issues of the only areas we couldn't touch, which was also rescheduled for next week, the issues of AMCOM involvement in some of these buyovers of these companies, and then the complete close down of these companies and the rest of them. But for us, I think it's a job well done, and we need not to continue the 3 days warning strike when we've been able to achieve at least 80% of what made us to go on this symbolic 3 days warning strike.
All right. Well, it's good to hear all of this, but as it is right now, we need to hear from you directly your statement saying that the workers that are involved, there has been an agreement to have them paid or to have them reinstated or to have them their benefits given to them, and has all of those been agreed? Are those the conditions that have been agreed by government in plain terms?
Well, we have. We've reached an agreement for NNPC, NAPIMS to sit down with the IOCs, the union, to look at these various issues, taking them company by company, and also to know why some of those actions were taken in terms of closure and then complete sack of workers in these organizations. I think, like I did mention in our press statement, that look, the responsibility of government, of any government, not excluding Nigeria, inclusive any government, is to protect the available jobs and also to create more jobs for the citizens. So it is just an issue of a divergent idea of some of these IOCs in taking some of the position they took in sacking Nigerian workers in the oil and gas sector. Nigeria is not the only country that has fallen into a recession. So it's not the only country that has been affected by the oil price drop, which is, of course, gradually coming up again.
Okay, but you cannot divide the realities of the demand you've made with the realities of the business climate in Nigeria. Even some oil companies will come and declare force majeure. There's nothing you can do about that. What can the government do if that happens?
No. Force majeure, of course, was to declare force majeure. Force majeure doesn't just come up like that. Let me give you an example of some of the issues that can result to force majeure, like the Niger Delta crisis that affects some of the IOC's productions, where pipelines were vandalized, where there are security threats and so on. Of course, you will agree with me that there will be a stoppage of job. Force majeure is not just a complete closure. It's a stopgap in between resolving the crises that are emanated within that period, and therefore workers to still go back to work. And so force majeure can also be as a result of looking for whatever components you need to come back on site to carry out your operations or your production. So these are the issues of the force majeure. So,
I understand that. Igwe, I understand that. Igwe, I understand. My question, I just use that as an analogy. My question is, if at the end of the day, what if these companies can't meet your demand based on the economic realities? What will the government do then?
Of course, I don't understand what you mean by economic realities. I've said clearly that Nigeria is not the only country that has been affected by these issues of crude oil price drop and the rest of them. But if it happens, of course, we'll definitely sit down and talk, because there are components of the instant laws that says in the event of any actions to be taken by an organization in terms of talking about economic realities and the rest of them, the union need to be informed. We need to sit down and discuss on the way forward. But the current situation doesn't contain all those actions. What the management does is to wait for workers early in the morning at their gates with the security agencies, maybe the police security agencies they have within themselves, or with the army securities they have within their environment. Once you resume duty, the only thing you see is just to say, gentlemen, your ID card is needed from you. Please sign for us that you are sacked from work. That is barbaric. That is unacceptable. That is labor slavery, as it may be applied, And so we cannot continue to fold our hands and see such situations and circumstances where workers will get up one morning and then get to the office and then they are being given forcefully, the ID card are taken away from them. They are given undertaking to sign and they say, look, your job is closed, we have paid your money, your terminal benefits into your account, without dotting the I's and crossing the T's that is expected in terms of these processes.
But that's not peculiar to your sector. It happens even in the banking industry. I remember taking that up with the CBN, and they said there's nothing they can do. It happens in the banking industry and some other private organizations. You're just let off just like that.
Well, if that happens in any of the sectors, then you must be able to hold the leaders of those sectors responsible in not doing what they need to do by virtues of the labor laws and the Instant Act that has also kept us together as workers today in this country. I have said Nigeria is an embodiment of also part of the ILO conventions, where we all sign some of these rules that are globally acceptable. So if the banking industry gets up this morning and begin to take the actions they are doing, then of course, let me not come into that, because that is a different ballgame altogether. Of course, where the ULC, our new labor center, is also looking into it, because Nubife is an affiliate of the UFC. That issue is being tabled. We're also looking at it critically. But I'll tell you, if that happened as it is happening today, like you rightly mentioned, of course, that is another act of labor slavery, which we must also stand against.
All right, Igwe, you have itemized one or two of some of the kind of abuses, but can you really walk us through, for the sake of enlightenment, let people know what kind of abuse that are meted out against union members sometimes that lead to agitation such as this?
Come again with that question, please.
Hello, okay, if you can hear me, I'm asking, even though you've itemized one, but can you walk us through some of the kind of abuses sometimes against oil workers that lead to agitation?
Well, like the issue I really mentioned here now, one of the abuses you see workers suffer is you get up one morning and go to work, and you see where a security agency tells you your job is finished, and by the time you start asking questions, and then you're being beaten up or you're being arrested and being put into the cell. These are the kind of issues we're talking about. Recently in Port Harcourt, one organization did what? The director, the managing director and chairman, chief executive director of their company went physically to assault some of these workers. In fact, he did not just stop there. He told them, you're fired. And the next thing they saw, he was with a cane, with the security personnel, and he was caning these workers. So these are the kind of barbaric issues we're talking about that we won't allow to happen again in this country.
That even goes beyond just labor issue now to a human rights issue, isn't it?
Of course, of course.
Okay. All right, let's look at the issue of unionism, why you want members, workers or employees of oil companies to join unions. If it's not part of the contract from the get-go, must they be part of your union?
No. We don't go around begin to force people to be unionized. But of course, the labor acts are there. Section 20 is there. Also, Section 9 will also give you some enlightenment of why the rights of workers to be unionized, and in any organization where where they work as workers, it is their right. It is not an exclusive issue to the employer. This is the right of the workers to belong to the union. And so when you begin to see organizations who want to enslave workers, who do not want to go through the rules, the instant rules that gives workers their rights and privileges, then there is a questionable issue. Now, there is one of the issues that came up in yesterday's meeting where we mentioned that there are workers who were working, in the course of working in their working environment, they were involved in an accident. You'll agree that there is this Workers' Compensational Act that also talks about how workers must be paid, how they should be taken care of should events such a thing happen. Accidents sometimes can come up. It may not be the fault of the worker, but again, the operational environment can also cause an accident. Now, if that happens, what happens? So there are these organizations that did not fulfill, for the fact that they do not want workers to be unionized, or they do not want the people to know that they have this kind of incident in the organization. They don't just sack these workers. They sack them in spite of knowing fully whether the man had been affected. Either he has some disability by virtue of loss of hands or loss of eye. But again, this company goes back and sack these workers. So these are some of the issues we're talking about. So
all right.
Any organization that says, not just talking about the oil and gas sector now, we're talking about the work environment where workers has all right, whether they're in the banking sector, whether they're in the local government, whether they're in the private sectors of any other organization, be they as much as they are workers working in such organization, it is their exclusive right, constitutionally written, that they have the right to belong to a union.
All right,
but once
Igwe,
you find that it's not happening, then it's an act of labor slavery.
All right. Igwe, we'll come back to you. Let's put you on a hold a little, and we go on a break. Stay with us on the program. We'll come back to discuss more. Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and on this segment, we have been talking about the oil industry, and recently the oil union, Nupeng, suspended its 3-day warning strike that it was supposed to embark upon. due to the meeting and agreement they had with government. And we have the national president of NUPENG with us in our Abuja studio, Igwe. At the meeting that you had a very far-reaching agreement yesterday, were some of the oil companies that are affected, were they present at the meeting?
Of course, yeah, they were present at the meeting, and it was a huge success.
So why do you have the DSS? That's a new touch to it.
Of course, all the security agencies, more especially the DSS, also have their own labor desk. They have a responsibility in terms of when you talk about security, you talk about the labor environment as well. When we go back again to the Labor Act, where it talks about the rights of workers and where you see workers are being abused, I think that is part of the issues why the security agencies were also present at that meeting of yesterday. Also to get some first-hand facts of what is really happening. Of course, you agree with me, their responsibility is also part of reporting directly to Mr. President on some of these issues and challenges we're facing in the oil and gas sector.
All right, Igwe Achese, thank you very much. This is the much time can permit us right now to dwell on this, but we know that there are developments we'd like to discuss as we get along in the coming days. But we'll wish you well and thank you very much and have a great day.